Welcome to National Signing Day. Coach Schuman here. We're going to talk today as much as we can about National Signing Day and everything that goes into it, and cover each team and break them down. A couple quick thoughts. Number one and number two looks like, as far as from a recruiting class standpoint, it's going to be Alabama, which may have the best recruiting class they've had ever. So we'll go through each class. We'll pull them up. We'll go and look at 24/7 Sports and see what they have as far as rank goes, and just kind of talk about some of the players as far as we know. All day long, we'll be tweeting out stuff as well at NUCsports.com and National Underclass. At Coach Schuman on Twitter. Before I do that, I want to give a shout out to my own guys at Red Bank Regional. We already had Owen Laughlin sign with Richmond, and now we have Nassim Abdullah sign with Castleton State and Brian Nowitzki. So who's going to be signing today as well, and he's going to be signing with Baldwin Wallace out in Ohio. So it's really, really two of our linemen and our quarterback linebackers. So pretty cool stuff. But we'll get right into it. And I'll share my screen as much as I can as I kind of go through some of the top prospects. But now, I'm getting a lot of my information from the net, from 24/7 Sports, some of the other outlets that do a great job of covering it. But obviously, we want to make sure that you kind of get the skinny on everything. Yesterday, I tweeted about the controversy around Tennessee and their prospects and how they rescinded an offer. And before I talk about the recruiting classes, I think that's one of the things that's happened more and more, and a lot of people are confused about how that happens and why that happens and why someone would rescind a prospect's offer. There's multiple reasons, and obviously I don't know the details of everything, but what the prospect claims and what the top prospect claims and what Tennessee claims are kind of two different things. Prospect claims that Tennessee basically took their offer because they didn't want him anymore or didn't have availability after being committed for all that time. And then Tennessee says that they didn't think he would be eligible from a recruiting standpoint. Who knows? There's obviously Tennessee's a big mess that has to get cleaned up. And, I think that's going to affect a lot from a ranking standpoint and what continues to happen there because Tennessee is in a situation where they got an uphill climb after many years of having trouble in recruiting, and they got a major uphill climb from that standpoint. The other cool thing that's going on, you got a ton of offers that are going out as well. That's become a new thing. So National Signing Day becomes one of those deals where people are signing because a lot of them sign on an early signing day. And not as many sign as they used to on National Signing Day to sign that early signing period. So you have a lot of schools that use the opportunity to offer players for 2022 and 2023 and beyond. So that's really cool process that I see happening more and more from that standpoint. So, but this used to be the Christmas day for schools, and but it's not the case as much as it used to be. But it's still a huge day. This is a day that now people are solidifying their class, and there's all kinds of different things going on, which is really cool from a recruiting standpoint. Like I said, this is definitely a bonanza with people trying to get their last player signed. You saw a couple I tweeted out earlier today. The Raging Cajuns had a bunch of guys sign, and they just had a great year. You're seeing they're reaping the benefits of that as one of those sleeper schools out there. Alabama signed their running back that they were hoping to get signed, which was a 5-star. And so they got that taken care of. Michigan signed a top D lineman. So we'll break down, who so far is signed or enrolled in this 2021 class. And what's really cool is Alabama has 14 already enrollees in this class, and then another 12 that signed a letter of intent. So they already have 14 guys on campus. They got 12 more guys coming in. It's an incredible class. As far as their national rank, like I said before, they are number 1. Last year they were number 2. They have an incredible number of 5-star commits in this group. Let's get the breakdown of that. And this 5 look, Rivals.com or 24/7 Sports are kind of the main providers of those things. So you could kind of look at, they're all pretty much in range, but Alabama has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 4, 5, 6. Looks like 6 5-stars just in this class alone. And everybody else is a mega prospect, 4-star higher, other than 2 or 3 guys. So some really interesting prospects. They signed, as far as from a top tier standpoint, and he's already enrolled, the number 1 tackle, J.C. Latham from IMG Academy, nationally ranked number 2 according to 24/7 Sports. The number 2 offensive tackle in the country, Tommy Brockermeyer, from All Saints Episcopal out of Fort Worth, Texas. The number one cornerback, JaQuincy McKinstry, out of Pinson Valley, Alabama. The number 2 wide receiver, Ja'Cory Brooks, out of IMG Academy. Just going to get through their top guys and then get you some interesting ones too in their class. St. Thomas Aquinas is Dallas Turner, the number 1 player at defensive end. The number 4 player at defensive tackle, David Payne from Belleville, Michigan. We announced this earlier. The number 2 running back of the country, 5-star Kamar Wheaton, who is at 5'11", 190 out of Garland, Texas, Lakeview Centennial. And I think that's the bulk of the 5-stars in this class. As usual, they already have a lot of these guys enrolled. They have the 2 top tackles, which is just unbelievable. They got the number 2 offensive guard from Fort Valley, Georgia, Terrence Ferguson on the offensive line. They also got, I know I'm missing him here. I thought they got a center. Yes. Yeah, I said center. James Brockermeyer is number 1 player at his position. And then Jaden Roberts out of Houston, Texas, offensive lineman. So they basically have 4 out of 5 offensive linemen that are top tier in defensive line, which is always a huge get for them from that standpoint. And it's a situation where they now have a lock on getting great linemen. And so if you're a quarterback that goes there, and they signed a dual threat quarterback as well, you're talking about a group that's going to be protected. And that's why you get more and more skill players coming there, running backs, receivers, and their wide open offense. Always, they don't hire assistant coaches. They hire they don't hire assistant coaches, they hire head coaches. So, as assistants, which is amazing, and which brings in even more talent, because Nick Saban could say, hey, he's got so many former head coaches on his staff. The guys he got has huge NFL experience. So that parlay is a huge thing from a standpoint of what they're doing there from a recruit standpoint. So it's incredible. So Bama's number one. This could be the best class that Alabama has had of all time. I mean, 24/7 Sports says the highest ranked class in their history. A couple other announcements. I announced this earlier. Kentucky beats out Auburn for 4-star linebacker Trevin Wallace, who's definitely a top player. So now you get over and you say, how does it affect their recruiting? I mean, the separation between top programs, and you'll see as we get to number 2 here, Ohio State. And as you go through the rankings, and this is 24/7, I'll give you Rivals rankings too. 24/7 has Bama 1 right now. It's probably going to stay that way, but Ohio State 2, Georgia 3, LSU 4, Clemson 5, which I think is interesting. Oregon 6, USC 7, which I think is really, really interesting, as well as Texas A&M at 8. Notre Dame kind of consistent where they are at 9. Michigan still recruiting strong at 10. And so, that's kind of your top 10. Other surprises, and I'll go through classes that had some surprises as well. And like I said, I was wrong. Alabama had 7 5-stars, 15 4-stars. Ohio State has 5 5-stars, 13 4-stars. Georgia has 4 5-stars and 11 4-stars. Kirby Smart's still getting top players. Ed Orgeron still riding high, even though they had a little bit more of a difficult year. LSU at 4 with 2 5-stars, 15 4-stars. Clemson with 3 and 14. Oregon 19 4-stars. USC 1 5-star top player in the country, mind you, which I thought was really interesting. 14 4-stars. Puts USC in a great position. Texas A&M 1 5-star, 15 4-stars. Notre Dame 12 4-stars. Michigan 1 5-star, 12 4-stars. Oklahoma's at 11. University of Miami with big move with 2 5-stars at 11 and 11 4-stars. Florida with at 13, North Carolina 14. It's a big move for them from last year. Wisconsin 15, Tennessee at 16. If they weren't in the SEC, that would probably be good. They salvaging the class. It's interesting what they're doing. I don't agree with some of the stuff, but I don't know the big picture. Texas 17. Texas obviously going through with Sarkisian. He got a 5-star. We'll talk about that. Maryland at 18, which is incredible. That's one of the top in the Big Ten. Ole Miss at 19. Nebraska at 20. And then let's go down a little bit of the list. Pittsburgh, a little bit of a surprise at 25, which is a real good class for them. We go down. Kentucky at 31 is pretty good for them, although for the SEC, not great. But some dips in classes I saw with Washington down to 34. Minnesota's definitely a little bit of a drop from where they were. Rutgers with a big move up to 41, 2 4-stars, 18 3-stars. Cincinnati at 42, 24 3-stars. That's an excellent class for them. Memphis with an outstanding class with 25 3-stars. So really interesting from that standpoint. If you look at by conferences, you look by conference. If you look by conference, we go through these rankings and you'll see the ACC is Clemson 1, Miami 2, North Carolina 3, Florida State 4, Pittsburgh 5. Big 12, Oklahoma 1, Texas 2, which is putting them back in range. Oklahoma State 3, West Virginia 4, Baylor 5. Big 10, Ohio State 1, Michigan 2, Wisconsin 3, Maryland 4, Nebraska 5. Penn State is now 6. That's a little bit of drop there. Like I said, big mover for Rutgers, which was probably last year or near last, is now number 9. So that's a big move for them. Talent, Pac-12, Oregon 1, USC 2, California 3, UCLA 4, Utah 5. I think it's pretty darn good by Utah being in the top 5. Some, Stanford's at 8. I mean, that's kind of they're never near the top from that standpoint. And Alabama 1, Georgia 2, LSU 3, A&M 4, Florida 5. Like I said, Tennessee's held it together. South Carolina's in deep trouble. There's a lot that has to go on there that they've got to do to improve. And then some really big surprises. Normally a top 10 when Gus Malzahn was there, and at worst the top 15. Auburn in the country, that is, meaning top 5 in the SEC. Auburn at 12, which is a shocker. A shocker there. That is a shocker. Auburn at 12. So those are some really, really crazy things from, Auburn's going to have a huge uphill climb here. And I don't know, with Alabama in their state, the move away from Gus Malzahn, curious move there. SEC, other than that, you got your big dogs up there up top. Conference USA, Cincinnati 1, Memphis 2, SMU 3, which is a big move for them. UCF 4, USF 5, which is a big move there. Houston dropping a little bit. They're at 7. Temple at 9. They were more towards the front early. Navy does it more with less than any other team in the country, and I don't mean less from a talent standpoint. They get their rankings. They get great players that do what they need to do, and so Independence. I don't know much about some of these, but UTSA is a big surprise at number 1. Who's their head coach? Who's UTSA? Jeff Traylor. Where was Jeff Traylor at before? I'm curious that. Jeff Traylor was at. Where was he at before? I mean, that's a big move there by them. UTSA being number 1 in independence. That's pretty impressive. North Texas 2, Florida Atlantic 3. North Texas has been steadily getting better and better recruits. FIU 4, Rice 5, and then you're kind of moving down the list there. Marshall at 11 is a little bit of a shocker. They are one of the powers in that conference. I mean, what are we going to see you say? The AAC. I'm sorry. Cincinnati's AAC. I don't know what you're talking about. AAC was Cincinnati. Conference USA is UTSA. Some of these other conferences I get confused by. AAC. Okay. All right. So why isn't? Oh, that's right. Because UConn went independent. Got it. Okay. Independence, Notre Dame, obviously number 1, BYU number 2, 16 3-stars, Army 3, Liberty 4, New Mexico State 5, UConn 6. That Massachusetts 7. So UConn is behind New Mexico State in recruiting. I'm going to have to take a hard look at that. My goodness. Brutal. Did they sign anybody from New Jersey? UConn? They didn't sign anyone from New Jersey. They said Deion McClain. All right, so my alma mater, hopefully that's not a reflect. Hopefully those players get developed, because if that's their ranking, brutal. Okay, MAC. We go over to MAC. Toledo is 1. Central Michigan is 2. Miami of Ohio 3. Northern Illinois 4. Ball State 5. whatever the M West is. I don't even know what. I thought that used to be the Mountain West. Okay. San Diego State, Boise State, UNLV, Fresno State, Colorado State, San Diego State eclipsing Boise State's a little bit of a surprise. UNLV being number 3 is a little bit of a surprise in that conference. Amazing off the year. Why San Jose State has that they're still 10. Everything else kind of makes sense. Appalachian State is winning the battle for the Sun Belt Conference. The Raging Cage is doing a great job. In Coastal Carolina, number 3. Georgia Southern 4. Georgia State 5. Very interesting. Nailing their recruiting base. Coastal Carolina leveraging that great year. Same thing with the Raging Cajuns leveraging that great year that they had to give them an opportunity. So let's look at let's take a second and look at, first of all, the top recruit in the country, Corey Foreman. One of the things you'll see from Corey Foreman, first going to USC, the number 1 prospect in the country from beginning to end. Corey Foreman, we'll play a little bit there just so you guys could see what the top prospect in the country looks like. If I can pull up some stuff here.
It was never about the gold. It was always about the goals.
All right. Corey Foreman. Corey Foreman starts, and that's right, he's California, from Centennial, California, Corona, Centennial, California, 6'5", 270 defensive end. We'll show you a little bit what it takes now. They didn't have a season, so he started out as the number 1 player, has continued all the way through as number 1 prospect, despite the fact that he did not have a season. Him going to USC is a huge coup for Coach Helton, being able to get a prospect like Corey Foreman to stay home, stay in his backyard at USC. When you see something like that, you know that there's that quietly, like they played better this year. They're quietly improving. USC is a program that I think if they continue to go in the direction they're going, they could end up being back with an opportunity to be a power in the Pac-12 conference, and that's a huge move for USC in getting Corey Foreman. He was the guy that we talked about as being the number 1. We featured him last year. We talked about him in the past. We've done a bunch of videos analyzing him. You can see those over on YouTube if you're joining us from there. Corey Foreman's prospects as a recruit at 6'5" and 270, and who can fly, is incredible. We'll watch a little bit of film here real quick and have a little fun with this. But it's Corey Foreman. All right. There he is. The speed off the ball. Let me just lower this a little bit. But Corey Foreman's speed off the ball, I do like a little bit of music. A little bit of music makes it a little more fun, man. You don't want to just listen to my boring voice the whole time. His ability to pursue is unbelievable. This is the number 1 recruit in the country. He's already signed early. His size is overwhelming for high school players at the time. Does a good job with his hands. He has a unique gift of size that most prospects do not have. He's going to USC, can play inside, can play outside. He's got to work on staying a little bit lower. That's my only complaint. That was my complaint last year as well. But then what we have is that 2019 film. Remember, we don't have 2020 film on Corey Foreman. This is him as a junior. So, unbelievable prospect. And we got a little glitch here. Okay. And Corey Foreman making plays coming down the line. Physical. I mean, look at his punishment there. Corey Foreman is the number one player in the country, listed from beginning to end. And I talked about a prospect like him and what it kind of impact he's going to have on the defensive side of the ball. In the Pac-12, the defense is going to be a huge. The team that has more of a defensive lineman that can make sacks in the spread offense are going to have a huge advantage over everybody else. So Corey Foreman going to USC in that signing is huge for them. I can't underscore that. I'll take any questions if you guys have questions as you're going through this process. What should 2022 prospects be looking at? So real quick rundown of USC's rest of their recruits. They're ranked 7th nationally according to 24/7 Sports. Corey Foreman was their number 2 ranked team in the Pac-12. A couple of the guys that they picked up that I really like: pro style quarterback Jackson Dart out of Corner Canyon, Draper, Utah, 6'3", 210. He's big, physical, pro style guy. USC loves those kind of quarterbacks and should be able to deliver, because they also signed another quarterback out of Mission Hills, California, Miller Moss from Bishop Alemany High School. So they got 2 quarterbacks to work with. And then I really like Kalen Bullock, their athlete from John Muir out of Pasadena. You'll see the theme. They signed almost all their prospects from California. They only went outside probably for defensive linemen and offensive linemen, which is my guess. But they did sign Maximus Gibbs from St. John Bosco, which is a local guy at 6'6", 385. He's a monster guard. Ty Buchanan from Cowlin, Corpus Christi, Texas, another guard at 6'5", 280. A real huge emphasis. They already have 3 enrollees, and Anthony Beavers from Narbonne, Brandon Campbell from Katy, which is a powerhouse program in Texas, a running back for both 4 stars, and Michael Jackson from Desert Pines out of Las Vegas, 3-star. Excellent class for USC. Okay, and I said I'd get around to it, and it took me a while, but Ohio State, who signed, I mentioned before, a good amount of 5 stars, leading the way from a 5-star standpoint is Jack Sawyer. I mean, so they have 21 guys that have signed a letter of intent. Okay, I didn't see any enrollees yet. Player personnel, Mark Pantoni did a great job of compiling everything along with Ryan Day in this class. They made some moves today as well at the position on defense, and so they made some moves around there, which I'll get to in a little bit, but want to kind of stick with. So Jack Sawyer for Pickering North. Again, USC's improved their national recruiting even more than when Urban Meyer was there, and Ryan Day's really exploded that. So getting Jack Sawyer, defensive end, 6'5", 248 for Pickering North. We'll take a quick look at him in a little bit later. They got him 5-star Mecca Egbuka from Steilacoom, Washington, and went way out west to get him. They have Donovan Jackson from Episcopal in Bel Air, Texas. Travion Henderson of Hopewell in Virginia, running back, 5-star. Macallum McCord, pro-style quarterback, 5-star to St. Joseph's, Philadelphia, PA. Fantastic prospect from the time he was young. Number 3 at his position. Travion is number 1 in his position. Donovan Jackson, number 1 in his position at guard. Mecca, number 1 in his position at wide receiver. Jack Sawyer, number 3 in his position, number 1 in the state of Ohio. And I think we might have featured him earlier this year. So those are their 5 stars. Some other prospects that I think could do, some amazing things. You don't have to leave the state of Ohio to find a linebacker, and they got a great one, inside linebacker from Ironton, Ohio, and Reed Carrico. And then Marvin Harrison Jr., obviously son of Marvin Harrison, St. Joe's Prep in Philadelphia at 6'3", 190. We'll take a look at his film as when we're looking at the Ohio State guys in 2 seconds. And then I love the size they got at offensive tackle with Zen Mikulski out of Indiana. They got a huge tight end, Sam Hart from Colorado, and they got a punter all the way from Australia. So incredible class, incredible diversity as to where the players are from around the country. Ohio State taps the whole entire country. And so fix something here, but that's a huge component to what they're doing now, Ohio State. And from a recruiting standpoint, that gives Ohio State the ability to call themselves a national recruiting base. That's huge for Ohio State. Huge to have a national recruiting space and not just be locked in to the Midwest states. They do a great job of getting the best players out of the Midwest, but they also went around the country and pulling 2 guys out of Florida. I mean, Philadelphia, QB and wide receiver. You can expect those 2 to have a connection. That's going to be fantastic out of St. Joe's Prep. So let's take a little look at Marvin Harrison back in 2019, although we probably have some film there for that. And we'll get this going. So this is Marvin Harrison Jr., son of Marvin Harrison, who played for the Indianapolis Colts, Hall of Famer, one of the best receivers of all time, played with Peyton Manning, fantastic route runner. We'll watch a little Marvin Harrison and see what makes him so special. Isolated one receiver side. He's got that same length his father has. They play against top competition. He's got some good speed. He really has a similar body frame. There's that comeback route that made his father famous. Marvin Harrison making a staple on his own. He has the ability to go and get it, high point the ball, puts his foot in the ground. Great route runner. You know, it's interesting when kids grow up and they mirror the athletic movements of their father or mother, and you know, the genetics on that is incredible, and he shows that, like the toe tap there, the great route running on the quick out route. I mean, you could see that he could run every route, and as he continues to work and improve, you're going to see Marvin Harrison. Like a little glitch there. Marvin Harrison really becomes something special. Marvin Harrison Jr., that is. And having a chance to play with his quarterback from his old high school could make a unique experience for them. That's Marvin Harrison Jr. I think one of the interesting pickups for them at Ohio State. The number two rated class according to 24/7 Sports. We'll take a kind of gander real quick over at what Rivals.com has. And I'll just take a second to pin this video here so we have this this coverage here for you pinned. And then go over here on YouTube here. If you have any questions, you could always you could hit me up here. If prospects have questions about recruiting, if you're a 2022 or 2023 and you have a question about recruiting, don't hesitate. Ask those questions that you need to get answered now. Don't be shy in asking those questions. It's important to find out. 2022 and 2023 is you guys are on the clock, and it's time to start, establishing yourself from your process. You got to reach out. Today's a great day to start this process if you haven't already. They're going to move on from 2021. Most have already obviously started 2022. And if you're 2023, this is the time to start getting your name out there because recruiting is critical. We just summarized Alabama, Ohio State. They locked up most of their class very, very early on in the process. most of their players signed early signing day. I think Ohio State didn't have to sign anybody, if I'm not mistaken. I think that Alabama had to sign the running back. I don't know if they had to sign any others. I didn't see too many others that had spots that had to get filled. So that's important to know from a recruiting standpoint what the roster looks like at these places. And when you're choosing a place, it's interesting because it seems to me that the rich keep getting richer in the recruiting process, and the Ohio States of the world. Let me just put this up here: National Signing Day. The Ohio States of the world, the Alabamas of the world. Now you see some of the other schools that have a chance there to try and move into the top 5, with Auburn kind of jumping out of the mix. So you're going to start to, obviously LSU was in the top 5. Notre Dame every single year is in the top 10. It's important to start reaching out to those schools right away, because they are going to pursue the next class. And the earlier you start getting in the mix there, the better off you're going to be. The earlier you start getting your name out there, the better off you're going to be. And from a recruiting standpoint, it makes all the difference, because offers go out early. So players like Corey Foreman, who's the number 1 player in the country, he was out there and talked about from the time he was on varsity, and he was at camps, dominating camps. So those are kind of things that every prospect needs to start doing. They need to get their name out there now, start reaching out to schools now, and finding out, what they're looking for, and finding out what their rosters are, so they have an opportunity to get recruited. I'm going to be at Coach Schuman over on Twitter, and you guys can go, and I'll put this up here for you guys so you can see it. This is one of the most also have this video here I'll share with you quickly. This is one of the most tricky issues for athletes right now, how to get recruited during COVID. There's some specific things that you can do to really help your situation. But if you're a class of 2021 and possibly even class of 2022, this is going to be a difficult process, because the NCAA has allowed athletes to be able to come back and have another year. So with them having another year, coaches are going to stick with, a lot of times, players that have already been in the program and part of the system, as opposed to getting new players, aka high school athletes, or even some of the JUCO athletes, or even prep school. So that's the number 1 most difficult thing that you have to deal with. Number 2 thing that you have to be aware of is the transfer portal. So in this 2021, and maybe a little bit for 2022 as well, the issue is there's been a huge increase in players in the transfer portal signing with Division I programs and FCS programs. How does that affect athletes that are looking to go to schools? Well, ultimately less scholarships. So a simple way to think about it is, if a team has 20 scholarships available for their class for 2021, and 5 of those are taken up by transfers, and 10 of those are taken up by players returning that normally would have graduated, that's 15 scholarships gone, which means they only have 5 scholarships available. Now, that's an important thing to understand, because it's simply a supply and demand thing. If there's less number of scholarships available, it's going to be much more difficult, and a lot of athletes are going to be in PWO, which means preferred walk-on situation. So it's important to know the school, who the scholarships that they have returning, and ask those questions about that. So if you're interested, if you believe that you really do have that level that you can play at, it's important to ask those questions about what scholarships are available, and how many players are going to sign in that class, because you don't want to waste any time with a place that's not going to have any scholarships available for you. So it's real important to figure those things out within that process. COVID has had a huge effect on the fact that you have a lot of athletes coming back that might have normally graduated and moved on in their situation from a recruiting standpoint. So it's important to ask the questions about at every school. And the second thing is, if you do want to play in college and there are no scholarships available, what do you do next? So if you're a very good student, I don't recommend going the JUCO route because you lose eligibility each year that you play in JUCO. Go the prep school route if you feel like that you need another year to develop because of that situation, but there's no guarantee. So a lot of athletes have taken preferred walk-ons that would not have normally, or will have to take the opportunity to play at a Division II or Division III level. Because if you think about it, if guys who were recruited at FBS level were no longer able to get scholarships, let's say because there are fewer scholarships, they get pushed down to FCS and so on and so forth. So everyone may get pushed down half a level or a level because of the fact that there aren't as many scholarships available. So this is a key component to understanding your recruiting process. Then the next question is, how do I get recruited if I can't get on campus? So everybody's hopeful that this summer we'll be able to do it, and maybe the end of spring. Nobody knows the answer to that question, whether we'll be able to get on campus. So there are three important things that you should think about. Number one, how are you going to market your capabilities? Whether it's your coach or yourself, how are you going to get that out there? Okay. In the past, there will still be a full slate of independent camps, which means tied to not tied to colleges, which I think are very valuable for building your resume, building your competition base, building your exposure. The summer camps for colleges most likely will be back this year, but we don't know. So you can't take a chance that you're hoping for that like you did last year, like a lot of athletes did last year, and it doesn't work out. So a really key component is to figure out how can you showcase your skills. So one of the ways you could do that is do a virtual combine. I've seen colleges like Penn State send instructions for it. We have instructions for it at NUC Sports, and we'll break out that film for you. But they're doing a virtual combine, following the parameters that the school outlays, asking that school what they'd like to see, and then doing those drills, videoing them, and sending them out. Okay. Camp film, if you go to independent camps, if you can get yourself camp film from these combines or camps, you're going to have to utilize that until things go back to normal. Usually it's used for purely exposure, but now you might need that film. Okay. Obviously, your game film, if you got to play this year, your game film is important. If you didn't get to play this year and you played in an all-star game or you attended a camp, you're going to have to use whatever film you have or do a virtual combine and send that information. It's not as good as what you would normally get, but it's definitely better than doing nothing, okay? Or 7-on-7 as well, if you're with a club 7-on-7 team. The next thing you have to do is, how do you position it out there? You're going to have all of your traits that make you a recruitable player, be able to tweet them, email them, text them, whatever opportunity you have to reach out. And you're going to have to reach out over and over again. If you don't reach out over and over again, you're going to limit your opportunities, okay? That's a critical component to it. You got to reach out over and over again. Okay, I would make phone calls to the schools that you're most interested in and talk to their coaches and see if you're someone that's going to be on their radar screen. I would do all of those things in order to put yourself in a better position. Okay, and then finally, you're going to have to see if you can schedule appointments with coaches that you can get on Zoom or whatever online conference call program they use to be able to meet them in person. I recommend making a video of yourself, introducing yourself, showing all your intangible size, height, weight, and reach, doing all those kind of things, your wingspan, and then also showing your athletic skills with an introduction to who you are, what kind of student you are, why you think you could be a Division I player if that's what you're looking for. What it is you love about the game, just so they could get a little bit more insight because they may not get to meet you. And then hopefully you could schedule that Zoom call or conference call with them where they can meet you online before, if they're not having a junior day or some sort of opportunity there. If things open up, you got to attend junior days, you got to get on campus, combined with all the other things that I already mentioned. Okay, you're going to have to be proactive in this process more than you have ever been. Okay, and just to get in a situation where you think that if you think that not, waiting for someone to show up at your door, this is not going to happen anymore. It doesn't happen anymore, period. Okay, there is no such thing as being discovered where you could send 100 links and they get 10,000 of them. You have to be persistent. You have to showcase yourself. You have to show why you're different. And you've got to put multiple things together that can help you from that standpoint. Hopefully these things can help you get recruited. If you get a chance, subscribe to my channel, NUC Sports, NUC Football. Follow, give us a like, comment if you have any questions. If there's a video you'd like to see me do, hit in the comments a video you'd like to see me do, because I'll be glad to do it for you and answer. Great. So we covered a ton of stuff there. If you're prospects that you can ask questions to me over at Coach Schuman. If I don't get to it right away, I'll get to it at some point today. I'll answer any questions. I'll try and answer them live for you here as well if I can. And so if you ask me questions on Twitter or on Facebook or on Instagram, I'm trying to kind of get through those. Hit those into me in a DM. It's important that you start that process now. When you guys send film out, make sure you send enough information on you. Obviously, coaches are going to be enticed by height, size, and weight, and that's a big deal. It's important for you to be able to understand that in the recruiting process, and so that's a deal. Any questions on those kind of things, please just tweet at me in DM, and I'll answer them. I'll even do them live for you right here. We're going through that prospect right now. We just broke down Ohio State. Did a little kind of PSA for you on the recruiting process. We're going to continue to hit home from a recruiting standpoint, everything that you need to know to make sure that you understand this process, while we're also breaking down the top programs in the country. And I think that I'm gonna have to get a microphone that's a little bit more. I want to get one of those mics that you can kind of walk around with, because this is sitting in one place thing is not for me. But it's important. Tonight as well, I'm going to be a special guest for Mr. Gadney at the Playbook Athlete. You can check them out at Playbook Athlete. They do a great job of helping prospects, and I'll be his guest tonight, this evening. So if you want to check me out there, I'll be talking about the recruiting process in depth again tonight, live on the air on his podcast, breaking everything down for you. All of this information, this signing day stuff, will be live for you at our podcast. We're going to have them on all of them, the Prospect Podcast, at the Kitchen Sink. I'll put it on our Success for Life podcast, so no matter where you go, you could find out everything that happened today in the recruiting. I'm going into I went through Alabama already. I went through Ohio State. And now I'm going to go to Georgia. So Georgia, I think if they could improve from an offensive standpoint and continue to get the prospects they have and opening things up a little more, being number 3 again, from a recruiting standpoint, the state of Georgia is an exploding state with recruiting prospects. So it's incredible what University of Georgia has done. They have JT Daniels coming back. They had two he was the number 6 player over 2018. But Georgia has signed some of the best prospects on National Signing Day that anybody has had. You could see Kirby Smart is on today at Rivals.com with Mike Farrell. And so their signees, they had a heck of a day early signing period was a heck of a day. But they're number 3 in the country, and we'll break down a little bit of what they ended up getting done from a recruiting standpoint. And like I said, National Signing Day is no longer a signing day where it used to be everybody signed on this day. Now the majority of the top prospects sign in the early signing period, so it's not as dramatic as it normally would be. But Georgia, according to 24/7 Sports, number 3 team in the country. 5-star they signed is already enrolled. They have 16 guys already on campus. 4 guys, that have had to sign the letter of intent. That have signed their letter of intent. All the 5-stars are already on campus. So the 4 guys: Amarius Mims from Beakley County in Georgia, offensive tackle, 6'7", 315. Brock Vandegrift, and Amarius, number 3 at his position at tackle, number 1 player in the state of Texas. Brock Vandegrift, dual threat quarterback, fantastic prospect, athlete, can put the ball in the money. We'll break down his film quickly. Number 2 prospect at his position, Xavier Sori, number 1 prospect at outside linebacker at 6'3", 214, could fly. And Xavier Sori is part of a lot of the way the new outside linebackers are, even more so than he used to be. They have to be able to coverage like a strong safety, and then be able to come off the ball, because a lot of times you can't just sit in a 4-2 anymore. With linebackers coming downhill. Otherwise, you can get taken advantage of in the passing game. Smail London from Baldwin County, Dallas, Georgia, another outside linebacker. Georgia, in my experience from running camps all over the place, have literally been loaded with prospects from that standpoint. Mike Morris is a unbelievable 4-star, so the offensive tackle. That's 2 gigantic offensive tackles that they've gotten. Corner, they signed Nyland Green, who I love, is number 4 prospect as positioned out of Newton, Georgia. We've seen him in the past at camps. David Daniel out of Woodstock, great athlete, can go anywhere on the field for you. 3rd at his position. A bunch of guys signed from them that are already there, and then big prospects. Then the best prospect of the guys that have not yet enrolled are Dylan Fairchild, the offensive guard, along with Jared Wilson. So you got 4, 5, 6 linemen, 5 linemen in this group. 4 linemen, 4 linemen in this 1, 2, 3, 4 offensive linemen, 2 guards, 2 tackles that are going to make a huge impact. They're really trying to shore up that offensive line so they can really improve their run game, get the dual threat quarterbacks going, and really leverage JT Daniels for next year. But the guys they're bringing in for the future are going to make a huge impact there. And so that's Georgia. We'll take a quick look at Brock Vandegrift's film from Prince Avenue Christian School out of Bogart, Georgia. One of the things you'll notice about a lot of the SEC schools, now Alabama goes all over the country. Georgia doesn't have to go too far outside of its state just because of the number of prospects. It's past California a couple of years in prospects, but it's 3 or 4 in the country every single year from a prospect standpoint. And obviously, Brock Vandegrift had a season, so I'm trying to see if I can get any of kind of his future this year's highlights. Let's see. All right, here we go. This is just some highlights from a big game they won by a lot, and you'll just kind of see some basic things. But his deliverability, his athletic ability, and his size are unique here. And then I'm going to take a brief pause as I come back to break down more of the classes here. But let's share the screen. So Brock Vandegrift, huge prospect. Off the power read, throwing the slant, delivers the ball with great velocity. Runs an offense that translates really well. I mean, spread. He has the mobility, can deliver the ball. So his quick release is a game changer, which is why he's going to be an unbelievable prospect from. Played at a private school, which will be some real good athletes. But they'll also they'll dominate some programs too because of that. He could run the ball well. I think he's a good runner. He's got excellent size, which will allow him to be that kind of downhill runner. And he has, some explosive speed. But you'll see the quick release, the ability to get the ball out of his hands now and deliver it fast and furiously is a huge impact. That's the kind of prospect, a quarterback that Georgia needs, especially with some of the turnover they've had. They got a little lucky in that JT Daniels is exactly what they, is a better prospect than they might have thought. They weren't sure if he was going to be what he ended up being. This kid right here, Brock Vandagriff, is going to be what they need. His arm and his athleticism, but just to release, the ability to get the ball out of his hands is electric, literally electric. He could throw from any position. It's interesting. Really, really interesting prospect. We'll return a little bit later. I'm going to take a little break here and just come back with you guys. So just pause here. This is one of the most tricky issues for athletes right now, how to get recruited during COVID. There's some specific things that you can do to really help your situation. But if you're a class of 2021 and possibly even class of 2022, this is going to be a difficult process because the NCAA has allowed athletes to be able to come back and have another year. So with them having another year, coaches are going to stick with a lot of times players that have already been in the program and part of the system, as opposed to getting new players, aka high school athletes, or even some of the JUCO athletes, or even prep school. So that's the number one most difficult thing that you have to deal with. Number two thing that you have to be aware of is the transfer portal. So in this 2021 and maybe a little bit for 2022 as well, the issue is there's been a huge increase in players in the transfer portal signing with Division I programs and FCS programs. How does that affect athletes that are looking to go to schools? Well, ultimately less scholarships. So a simple way to think about it is if a team has 20 scholarships available for their class for 2021, and 5 of those are taken up by transfers, and 10 of those are taken up by players returning that normally would have graduated, that's 15 scholarships gone, which means they only have 5 scholarships available. Now, that's an important thing to understand because it's simply a supply and demand thing. If there's less number of scholarships available, it's going to be much more difficult, and a lot of athletes are going to be in PWO, which means preferred walk-on situation. So it's important to know the school, who the scholarships that they have returning, and ask those questions about that. So if you're interested, if you believe that you really do have that level that you can play at, it's important to ask those questions about what scholarships are available and how many players are going to sign in that class, because you don't want to waste any time with a place that's not going to have any scholarships available for you. So it's real important to figure those things out within that process. COVID has had a huge effect on the fact that you have a lot of athletes coming back that might have normally graduated and moved on in their situation from a recruiting standpoint. So it's important to ask the questions about at every school. And the second thing is, if you do want to play in college and there are no scholarships available, what do you do next? So if you're a very good student, I don't recommend going the JUCO route because you lose eligibility each year that you play in JUCO. Go the prep school route if you feel like that you need another year to develop because of that situation, but there's no guarantee. So a lot of athletes have take preferred walk-ons that would not have normally, or will have to take the opportunity to play at a Division II or Division III level, because if you think about it, if guys who were recruited at FBS level were no longer able to get scholarships, let's say because there are fewer scholarships, they get pushed down to FCS and so on and so forth. So everyone may get pushed down half a level or a level because of the fact that there aren't as many scholarships available. So this is a key component to understanding your recruiting process. Then the next question is, how do I get recruited if I can't get on campus? So everybody's hopeful that this summer we'll be able to do it, and maybe the end of spring. Nobody knows the answer to that question, whether we'll be able to get on campus. So there are three important things that you should think about. Number one, how are you going to market your capabilities? Whether it's your coach or yourself, how are you going to get that out there? Okay. In the past, there will still be a full slate of independent camps, which means tied to not tied to colleges, which I think are very valuable for building your resume, building your competition base, building your exposure. The summer camps for colleges most likely will be back this year, but we don't know. So you can't take a chance that you're hoping for that like you did last year, like a lot of athletes did last year, and it doesn't work out. So a really key component is to figure out how can you showcase your skills. So one of the ways you could do that is do a virtual combine. I've seen colleges like Penn State send instructions for it. We have instructions for it at NUC Sports, and we'll break out that film for you. But they're doing a virtual combine, following the parameters that the school outlays, asking that school what they'd like to see, and then doing those drills, videoing them, and sending them out. Okay. Camp film, if you go to independent camps, if you can get yourself camp film from these combines or camps, you're going to have to utilize that until things go back to normal. Usually it's used for purely exposure, but now you might need that film. Okay. Obviously, your game film, if you got to play this year, your game film is important. If you didn't get to play this year and you played in an all-star game, or you attended a camp, you're going to have to use whatever film you have or do a virtual combine and send that information. It's not as good as what you would normally get, but it's definitely better than doing nothing, okay? Or 7-on-7 as well, if you're with a club 7-on-7 team. The next thing you have to do is, how do you position it out there? You're going to have all of your traits that make you a recruitable player, be able to tweet them, email them, text them, whatever opportunity you have to reach out. And you're going to have to reach out over and over again. If you don't reach out over and over again, you're going to limit your opportunities, okay? That's a critical component to it. You got to reach out over and over again. Okay, I would make phone calls to the schools that you're most interested in and talk to their coaches and see if you're someone that's going to be on their radar screen. I would do all of those things in order to put yourself in a better position. Okay. And then finally, you're going to have to see if you can schedule appointments with coaches that you can get on Zoom or whatever online conference call program they use to be able to meet them in person. I recommend making a video of yourself, introducing yourself, showing all your intangible size, height, weight, and reach, doing all those kind of things, your wingspan, and then also showing your athletic skills with an introduction to who you are, what kind of student you are, why you think you could be a Division I player if that's what you're looking for, what it is you love about the game, just so they could get a little bit more insight because they may not get to meet you. And then hopefully you could schedule that Zoom call or conference call with them where they can meet you online before, if they're not having a junior day or some sort of opportunity there. If things open up, you got to attend junior days. You got to get on campus.
I don't know how,
with all the other things that I already mentioned.
Okay, so we're back here. I don't know if I was muted for some reason. Okay, we're good. And so now the next thing that I want to talk about, so we went through 1, 2, and 3. So Georgia was 3. Number 2 was Ohio State. Number 1 was Alabama. We broke down their class. The next one, which really, really had an unbelievable class off of a 2 years ago winning the national championship. This year, struggling a bit, having to make some moves, but defensively was a huge issue for them. Hopefully they fixed it, and they had to move some people out at the coaching position. But the recruiting stays strong, and their pause, that's LSU, according to 24/7 Sports, has them at number 4. And, they're a program that is completely with Ed Orgeron. Ed Orgeron, first of all, is known to being a fantastic recruiter. There's maybe no other. Well, Nick Saban obviously is the number 1 probably recruiter in the country. Ryan Day quickly is establishing himself as being maybe a top, maybe being the number 2. I mean, that's, I would have said Ed Orgeron, but, Kirby Smart, Ed Orgeron, now Ryan Day. I don't know if it's because of Ohio State or Ryan Day is that good, but whatever it is, they're winning ball games, they're getting the national championships, and Ryan Day has improved upon what Urban Meyer was able to do, which is just a huge impact in their recruiting. But number 4 being LSU, their recruiting and what they were able to do in this class is fantastic. Again, LSU needed to fill a lot of spots, having lost a lot of players to the NFL last year. And so because of that, you got a situation where LSU struggled this year with opt-outs to fill all their spots that needed to be filled. So receiver spots, on defense, it was a disaster. And they should be able to fix it with a lot of the prospects that they put in the pike last year and the ones that they got in the pike for this year. So let's take a quick look at LSU's signees here. Okay, and LSU, first of all, they had a huge signee with Savion Jones, keeping him at home. I think that was a big one that they wanted to make sure they had there. Savion is a dynamic prospect who can run from the defensive end, defensive tackle position. He's going to get bigger, but that's a huge keep for them. Louisiana State University is huge on keeping Louisiana prospects. Louisiana, the state of Louisiana, in my opinion, is the most underrated state in the country when it comes to recruiting. Having run many camps there, I'm always impressed with the athletes and their dedication to football. So Louisiana State University, LSU, has done an unbelievable job of building a football state. I call it Little Texas because of just a number of prospects per capita. There's only 4 million people there, and they have something like 80 or 90 Division I prospects every single year, probably more. I got to look that up. I got to fact check on that. But LSU, in according to 24/7 Sports, is the number 4 rated team in the country. 5-star Mason Smith already enrolled. They have 9 enrollees, 11 that have signed the letter of intent. Their other 5-star is Sage Allen from Lafayette Christian Academy. He's the number 2 at his position at safety. Mason Smith is number 2 at his position at defensive tackle at Terrebonne at Oma, Louisiana, and Sage at Lafayette. Again, Louisiana, their theme, they now have the ability to recruit nationally, but when you see their recruits, most of their guys are going to be Louisiana and then a little bit of Texas, a little bit of Mississippi. What Ed Orgeron's been able to do is be able to get a couple of guys here and there from different places, like Greg Penn from DeMatha Catholic, 4-star prospect inside linebacker. He went, out to Ohio to get Corey Kiner, which is from Roger Bacon, another a powerhouse program, a running back. That's what they, much needed. Someone who could be dynamic in that position going forward. On the defensive side of the ball, where they really need to get some defensive players, they got Derek Davis, 4-star from Gateway High School, which is a traditional power program out in Pennsylvania for many, many years. They got wide receiver Deion Smith from Jackson Academy in Mississippi. They got quarterback Garrett Nussmeier. Is that I wonder if that's Nussmeier's son, Doug Nussmeier's son? Is that possible? Am I 61182, 4-star prospect out of Flower Mound. They got an outside linebacker that could fly. Again, I talked about that. Those outside linebackers now are like borderline strong safeties. They used to think about them as strong safeties at 6'4", 193 from Hapeville Charter in Atlanta, Georgia. They went all the way to Georgia to get that 4-star prospect there, 11th rated at his outside linebacker position. He is an athlete and a half. Landon Jackson from Pleasant Grove, defensive end at 6'6", 240. Wasn't a huge class in the offensive lineman, only signing 2. That is a little bit of a concern for me when I see their class. Very heavy in what they were missing skill. Running backs galore. He was also signed Armani Goodwin from Trussville, Alabama. And so LSU got a lot of the things that they need to fill. They need to fill some of the skill positions they lose because so many of their guys go on to the NFL. It's one of those kind of deals there that you see happen for prospects. By the way, today, if you do go to NUC Sports or topprospectelite.com, first of all, if you go to NUC Sports, there's a wealth of recruiting information there for you. Topprospectelite.com is where you can go and sign up for events. You could use code NSD21 to get 60% off today for National Signing Day in celebration of all the prospects getting signed today. I love National Signing Day. It's one of my favorite days of the year. It's so interesting to see all the different prospects of where they're going. This just came, a couple of interesting ones just came in. Akron just signed Dante Pollard. That's the guy they were waiting on, defensive back. Unbelievable athlete out of Penn Hills, PA. They just got that in. That's a big get for them. See if a couple other ones that I just saw coming through here. I just saw Michigan State. Michigan State has not been able to hang with Michigan or some of the other Big Ten programs, which is surprising. Let's see what I saw here. I just saw Michigan State. And by the way, if you sign and you want us to retweet it out, this is the time to do it. We're getting them all out there. Colby Field signed with South Carolina, and Caden White. So that's a huge deal over there. 2 prospects signing with South Carolina. It's everything. They need a lot of help from, and Beamer's got to really work that. We covered Savion Jones earlier today from LSU. I don't think we covered this yet. I love Louisiana Raging Cajuns, their class, man. There's plenty of prospects in Louisiana. The Raging Cajuns signed another one from Karenko, Kendall Williams, running back, who's definitely one of the sleeper prospects of that state. So Kendrell, I'm sorry, Williams. I just saw a Michigan State prospect come through that I wanted to comment on. See what we got here. Let's see. Opelousas Catholics High School, Keon Coleman signed with Michigan State, which is a big get for them. Explosive athlete out of Louisiana. And anytime you're able to dip into states like Louisiana or Georgia, if you're from out of state, those are Florida, obviously. These are hotbeds on what you need to be able to do. Michigan State needs more of that. The biggest news of the day was Michigan flipping Oak Park's Rayshon Benny from Michigan State. And then they also added a Colorado flip. So Harbaugh, I guess, getting stability there from a situation where he signed, contract again, and so they're getting more stability, which is why they got a top 10 class. Let's talk about stability in these recruiting classes before I get to the number 5 class in the country. Before I wrap up my early part of the day here, National Signing Day. Stability in the coach that you have has become a huge part. So some of the upstart programs that are signing coaches but lose them every few years, that's been a problem in getting top recruits. Nick Saban has shown stability at Alabama. It looks like Kirby Smart is showing stability at Georgia. Todd Helton at USC, they gave him a vote of confidence. He got time to do it. If he continues to win, they could have stability there in USC in getting recruits. Oregon has some level of stability there. So, does Texas A&M have stability with Jimbo Fisher? I think so. I mean, he's always been a great recruiter. LSU and Ed Orgeron. LSU's always recruited great. Is there stability there? This year is a big year for LSU. This year is a huge year for LSU because then they can establish that stability that they need in order to keep pulling those top 5 classes every single year. Ohio State, obviously Ryan Day, in a very, very short time period, has given recruits the understanding that that's a stable place to be able to get recruited. So it's important for recruits to be able to feel like, even though a lot of them are looking to go to NFL in a very short time period, recruits seem to want to have some level of stability in that school. And if they don't, that they have a cachet coach or a coach with personality that really can get other players to come there. And I say that with what remains to be seen. What Mike Leach at Mississippi State, Lane Kiffin at Mississippi, Sarkisian, we'll see what happens at Texas. But some of these other places that have not. So Arizona State is starting to get, obviously, some stability there. So with Herm Edwards. And if they could win and create that stability, then they're in good shape. So the reason why I bring that up is Michigan's signing Harbaugh. I'm guessing they're thinking they got stability there just because their prospects are pretty good, even though they haven't been able to – they didn't have as good a year this year. And so that stability goes a long way. Why do you think Rutgers goes and gets a much improved class? I would say, even though it's his first year, Schiano provides stability. Okay. And if people believe that there's stability in the program, top prospects are going to be more likely to entertain the opportunity to go there. And I think that's a huge, huge part that's underestimated and undervalued in recruiting, the stability of a prospect and what the prospect is looking for from a recruiting standpoint. So I think that's a key thing. And I think that, when prospects are looking to find players, that's what they're looking for. To find coaches, they're looking for a level of stability that is a game changer for them. And there's no doubt about that that's the case there at a lot of the bigger schools. That's where you do see that separation, and the up-and-comers need to have that stability as well. It'll be curious to see what happens with programs like Minnesota, Indiana going forward, who had Indiana had a great year this year. Minnesota expected to be better, did not. Iowa State, which doesn't get the time. I mean, what were they ranked in recruiting? Iowa State is Iowa State even in the top 50? They must be in the top 20. Yeah. Iowa State, according to 24/7 Sports, is 53, and Indiana is 54. So, when you talk about the recruiting rankings too, like, how important are these recruiting rankings and how good are they? Are they just rating the top guy? Like, I guess in the top 5, yes. When you get out of maybe the top 10, is there big differences in the 3-star that's going to Indiana versus the 3-star that's going to Arizona State? I don't know that there is. I think it's how they develop. I think size and athleticism is a big part. Like, I love what Iowa State does with their recruiting. They signed Tyler Moore, who's a 6'5", 245-pound tight end out of Iowa. They signed a Canadian wide receiver, 6'5", 200 pounds, Tristan Michaud. They're thinking outside the box from a recruiting standpoint. They signed an offensive lineman, Dodd Sauzer, from the state of Iowa. They get their Iowa prospects better than the University of Iowa, maybe even. They signed a 6'7", 260 tackle that needs development out of Davenport, Iowa, from Assumption. He's going to give you everything he has. They signed Jim Bonifaz, 6'5", 255. These tight end-like tackles who they can develop into big, giant guys when they get them into the weight room. They signed weak side DN, 6'4", 220 out of North Scott, Iowa, Joey Peterson. I love what Iowa State is doing, even though it doesn't look traditional, okay? That's an important thing to understand. Malik Vernon from Hamilton, Ohio, that's a big, giant athlete, 6'4", 205. They're going to get themselves, a prospect from an athlete position that can do a lot of different things for them. And as long as they can keep getting a quarterback that does what they need to do, they're getting the different all-purpose backs out of Florida, out of Lutz, Florida, Dean Salas. They're 53 rated, but they got a class. When you look at these classes, I think size and athleticism, if you have height, is going to have a huge impact at the college football game, and Iowa State has done that. So you can't underestimate what they have done. Okay, so we go into the top 5, rounding out the top 5. I can't be remiss without and end the show until I get back with you later today. Clemson, number 1 in the ACC, I would expect that, but signing Will Shipley as an all-purpose back, 5-star, fantastic athlete, number 1 APB in the country out of Weddington, a powerhouse program. In North Carolina. Now, Clemson has to dip into a lot of different places because they're not going to get enough of the players from South Carolina. They go into states like Georgia. They go to California. They go to Florida. They go, St. Joe's, PA, which had a ton of prospects this year. Jeremiah Trotter at inside linebacker, 6', 210, a lightning fast inside linebacker. They got gigantic Jake Stool, from Tennessee, out of Ravenwood at 6'5", 215. Another star wide receiver from St. John Bosco and Bo Collins at 6'3", 195. And let's get to what, the guys that I really, really like here. So, at offensive guard, Marcus Tate from True Prep in Florida. I love the length of Nathaniel Wiggins from Westlake, Georgia. I love the size out of defensive tackle Peyton Page. That's that defensive tackle position where you just can't run on them. They like to clog it up there with the one tech out of Greensboro, North Carolina. They got a big back out of Grayson where they're just produce players like you can't believe out of Grayson High School in Georgia, out of Loganville, Georgia. Phil Maffa at 6'1", 215, and a fantastic center out of Ryan Linthicum out of Damascus High School in Maryland. So those guys are all enrolled. They did get 2 5-stars that have yet to enroll, but obviously will roll a regular time period, in Barrett Carter and North Gwinnett, and outside linebacker, 6'1", 220. Physical person. They got Tristan Lee from Robeson Secondary, another offensive tackle. And you see, got to get those big, tall offensive tackles. They got a ton of linemen. They do a great job at that. Pro-style quarterback Bubba Chandler, who's a 3-star. It's tough to get a quarterback because they have one that's a freshman that's going to start for the next 4 years, 3 years, whatever. So it's tough to sign quarterbacks, but they got a good one out of North Oconee in Bogart, Georgia. So I thought they did a really good job. Number 5 is good. Obviously, I think if you're in a top 10, you're in good shape. If you're top 5, you're in really good shape. And I think they got a lot of prospects that could fit that Clemson mode. It'll be interesting to see. They got 5 guys out of Georgia, 3 from Florida, 3 from North Carolina, 2 from Tennessee, 1 from California, Maryland, 1 from Pennsylvania, 1 from South Carolina, 1 from Texas. Not a ton from South Carolina. 4 offensive linemen, 4 receivers, 3 defensive linemen. Pretty rounded class out there for Clemson. A lot of players that are really going to have an impact for them for Clemson. It's important to recognize that the prospects that are coming in and how they develop them. And before I go, I want to talk to a couple of my home state things. So we went through the top 5. Bama 1, 2 is Ohio State, Georgia is 3, 4 is LSU, 5 is Clemson. Let's see. Let me just go over to Rivals.com real quick and look at their 2021 class. This was 24/7 Sports, who had their team rankings. Rivals, slightly different. They have Alabama 1, Ohio State 2, Oregon 3, LSU 4, Georgia 5. Hating a little bit on Clemson there. I said the USC is the surprise out of all of them. I guess Oregon nailing Ty Thompson from Gilbert, Arizona at quarterback's a huge get for them. That's a 5-star. And Kingston Sumataya from Utah at offensive line at 6'6", 306. Those are 2 huge gets for them. And signed, early on in the process. They're waiting on Byron Cardwell. He hasn't signed yet. Everybody else is signed. I do love the height of their prospects at Oregon. Jonah Miller from Tucson, Arizona, at 6'8", 303, and Maliki Matavo from Henderson, tight end, 6'6", 240. The height, I'm just going to give you a rundown of their top 10 heights. Okay, 6'8", 6'6", 6'6", 6'5". 3 of those 4 are offensive linemen, and 1's a tight end. 6'5" tight end, another one. 6'5" DN, 6'5" wide receiver, 6'4" quarterback, 6'4" DN, 6'4" wide receiver, 6'4" athlete. They have a lot of height. I talked about this earlier, that height is a big deal in football because you could pack size onto it. Okay. You're either going to have speed and athleticism or have height and athleticism. And those are two things that come at a premium. You have to be able to have it, but that's Rivals.com's Type 5, a little bit different than what you have in the Top 5 over at 24/7 Sports. I want to break down a couple of, some hometown state Rutgers. Their prospects, their top guys are Elijah Clark out of defensive back from Camden, New Jersey, 4-star. Kyrie Banton from Newark, linebacker, 6'3", 215. Carnell Davis, wide receiver out of Melbourne, Florida, 3-star. Al Shahidi Salam from East Orange, running back, 5'9", 170, athlete, can do a lot of different things. Shaquan Loyal, DB from Newark. Huge representation over there from Newark, New Jersey. Cameron Stewart from Shillington, PA, 6'4", 225 DN. Jordan Thompson, athlete out of Morris Plains, 6'3", 235. Kayshawn Griffin from Hamilton, New Jersey at 6'5", 260. Let's look at their height. So they got Kevin Toth at 6'6". I think he played the Hun School. They got Henry Hughes at 6'6", 228. They got 6'6", 6'6", O-line, D-line, linebacker 6'5", DN 6'5", tight end 6'5", DN 6'5" at Rutgers, 6'4" Cameron Stewart, 6'4" Desmond Igbinson, athlete from Union, 6'4" Irvington, 6'4" offensive lineman Philadelphia, and Tyler Needham, 6'3". Lots of height. I think that they did a good job there. That height is a big. Again, I love height in your prospects. I think you have a chance, even if you have maybe less than the height is a huge advantage. And then go my alma mater. So I thought Rutgers did a great job. We go over to my alma mater, UConn. But try not to look at the star rankings because you get caught up in it. I just want to see height here. See, and this is where I see the difference. So defensive end 6'4", 245. O-line 6'4", 285. O-line from DeSoto, great program though, 6'3", 260. Linebacker 6'3", 225, 220. I like him. Langston Hardy, and another linebacker out of Hialeah, Florida. DeAndre Spate dipped into Jacksonville, Florida for a lot of different prospects. Not a huge class. They are returning a lot of guys, so I know that was a strategy in not playing to get all their guys to return. So that'll be interesting to see. I think UConn's best sleeper prospect, maybe Christopher Johnson out of Jacksonville, Florida, the athlete. They always love going into Canada to get a player. So my guess is if you can learn the American game, Mick Bell could be a good prospect at defensive back. And then the size on Price Yates out of San Antonio, Texas, defensive end. Hopefully those guys can help do some things because they got to have to develop these guys because they're not getting, their size alone is not as big. And you compare that and it just makes it tough when you get in the game. So, but we're hopeful. Anyway, that's through lunch today. That's a little breakdown of the top 5 classes for 2021 National Signing Day. Continue to go over topprospectelite.com. Use code NSD21, and we'll be back more today. Tonight I'll be on Playbook Athlete talking about recruiting and what you can do to improve as a recruit. That'll be a great show on there with Joe Gadney and talking a lot about the recruiting process, what's going on now with everything with COVID, what's going to happen, what's the change going to be, is there going to be any changes, what are we going to look at for the future, 2022 athletes, 2023 athletes, today's the day, start sending your stuff out now. If you don't want to be behind the 8 ball. All right, we'll talk to you soon. Coach Schuman signing off. National Signing Day, enjoy it. I'm going to enjoy it. I'll be with my players today that are signing and taking lots of pictures and enjoying that process. Doesn't matter where you are, it's where you're going. Keep improving, keep working on what you got to do to improve. enjoy National Signing Day, live out your dreams, keep pushing the envelope to be the very best player that you could be. You can. You do that. You listen to your coaches. You listen to what you need to improve as a team. You do those things, and you're going to have a great chance to have a great career in high school and hopefully in college. Don't sell yourself short. Reach for the moon. Coach Schuman signing off.